Elara had long ago learned the art of listening without letting her face betray the exhaustion beneath it. People said she had a calming presence, a softness that made confessions spill easily. They said it with admiration, as though her gentleness were a gift she had been blessed with rather than a habit she had been trained into. She never corrected them. It was easier to let them believe kindness came naturally to her, that she carried it like a lantern she willingly held out for others. Her mother was the first to rely on that softness. It began with small things, worries about neighbors, anxieties about relatives, the quiet tremors of a woman who feared being alone with her own thoughts. Elara, even as a child, had learned to sit beside her and absorb the unease. She would nod, offer a few words, and let her mother's fears settle into her own chest like stones. As she grew older, the stones multiplied. Her father, though quieter, had his own way of leaning on her. He would sigh heavily at the table, waiting for her to ask what troubled him. If she didn't, he would clear his throat until she did. Her siblings, too, had learned that Elara was the one who would listen without judgment, the one who would soothe, the one who would never say she was tired. She had become the family's quiet harbor, the place where storms were unloaded, but harbors, too, could flood. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the house settled into its familiar hush, Elara found herself sitting at the kitchen table with her mother. The older woman's hands trembled slightly as she spoke, her voice carrying the same anxious rhythm it always had. "I don't know what your brother meant by that remark earlier," her mother said, twisting a cloth between her fingers. "He sounded angry. Do you think he's upset with me? Or with your father? Or perhaps with you? I can't tell anymore. Everything feels so uncertain." Elara listened, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She had heard variations of this worry countless times. Her brother had a sharp tongue, but his words were rarely as heavy as their mother imagined. Still, Elara knew her role. "I'm sure he didn't mean anything by it," she said gently. "He was tired. You know how he gets when he's tired." Her mother exhaled shakily, as though Elara's reassurance were a balm. "You always know how to make things sound better," she murmured. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Elara smiled faintly, though her chest tightened. She didn't want to be indispensable. She wanted to be allowed to falter, to be unsure, to be human. But she nodded, because that was what was expected. Later that night, as she lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling and tried to remember the last time someone had asked her how she felt. The memory eluded her. She wondered if she had ever been asked at all. The next morning, her sister arrived unannounced, her eyes red from crying. She sank into a chair and began speaking before Elara could even greet her. "I can't do this anymore," her sister said, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand. "Everything feels like it's falling apart. I don't know who else to talk to." Elara sat beside her, offering a steady presence. She listened as her sister poured out her frustrations, about her marriage, her children, her own sense of inadequacy. Elara nodded, murmured soft reassurances, and held her sister's hand until the tears subsided. "You always know what to say," her sister whispered. "You're the only one who understands." Elara felt the familiar ache in her chest. She wanted to say, "I don't always know what to say. I'm just trying to keep everyone from breaking." But she didn't. She squeezed her sister's hand instead. When her sister left, the house fell silent again. Elara stood in the doorway, watching her walk down the path, and felt a heaviness settle over her shoulders. She closed the door quietly, as though afraid the sound might summon another confession. She moved through the house with slow steps, her thoughts drifting like shadows. She wondered if anyone noticed how she had begun to shrink inside herself, how her voice had grown softer not out of gentleness but out of weariness. She wondered if anyone cared. That evening, her father approached her with a troubled expression. "Your mother is worried again," he said. "She thinks she upset you earlier. You should talk to her." Elara blinked. "I wasn't upset." "Well, she thinks you were. You know how she gets. Just reassure her." There it was again, the expectation that she would smooth things over, that she would carry the emotional weight no one else wanted to touch. She nodded, though her stomach twisted. She found her mother in the sitting room, wringing her hands. "I didn't mean to burden you," her mother said immediately. "I know I talk too much. I know I worry too much. But you're the only one who listens." Elara sat beside her, feeling the familiar pull of obligation. "You're not a burden," she said softly, though the words tasted like ash. "I'm here." Her mother leaned against her, and Elara wrapped an arm around her shoulders. She felt the older woman's trembling ease, but her own remained. That night, Elara lay awake again, her thoughts circling like restless birds. She felt stretched thin, as though her kindness had been pulled taut to the point of tearing. She wondered how much longer she could keep absorbing everyone's fears without drowning in them. She closed her eyes and tried to breathe, but the air felt heavy. She had always believed that kindness was a choice, a quiet strength she could offer freely. But now she wondered if it had become something else, an expectation, a duty, a cage, and somewhere deep inside her, a small voice whispered a question she had never dared to ask: "When will someone carry you?" She didn't have an answer, but the question lingered, unsettling and persistent, like the first crack in a long-standing wall. Elara woke the next morning with a heaviness that felt older than her body. She moved through the house quietly, as she always did, careful not to disturb anyone. It was a habit she had never questioned, the belief that her presence should be gentle, unobtrusive, easy to carry. Her mother was already in the kitchen, pacing with a restless energy that made the air feel tight. "I couldn't sleep," she said the moment Elara entered. "I kept thinking about what your sister said yesterday. Do you think she blames me for her troubles?" She didn't say it, but I could feel something in her tone. Elara reached for a cup, her movement steady. "She doesn't blame you," she said softly. "She's overwhelmed. That's all." Her mother exhaled shakily. "You always say that. You always make it sound simple." Elara paused. There was no accusation in her mother's voice, only fear. But something inside Elara tightened anyway, a small, quiet pull of fatigue. "I say it because it's true," she replied. Her mother nodded, though her eyes remained clouded. "I don't know what I'd do without you," she murmured. "You're the only one who understands." Elara felt the familiar ache. She wanted to say, "I'm tired. I'm so tired." But the word stayed lodged in her throat. Later that day, her brother arrived, his expression stormy. He dropped into a chair with a sigh that seemed designed to summon her attention. "Everything is falling apart," he said. "I can't talk to anyone else about it. They don't get it." Elara sat across from him, hands folded. "Tell me," she said, because that was what he needed. He spoke for nearly an hour, frustrations, disappointments, fears he had never named aloud. Elara listened, absorbing each word like a sponge. When he finally paused, he looked at her with a mixture of relief and expectation. "You always know what to say," he said. "You're the only one who doesn't make me feel foolish." Elara offered a small smile, though her chest felt tight. "I'm glad you can talk to me." He nodded, satisfied, and left soon after. The house fell silent again. Elara remained seated long after he was gone, her hands resting in her lap. She felt hollow, as though something essential had been drained from her. She wondered how many times she had sat in that same chair, listening to someone else's fears while her own remained unspoken. That evening, her father approached her with a troubled expression. "Your mother is worried again," he said. "She thinks she upset you this morning. You should talk to her." Elara blinked. "I wasn't upset." "Well, she thinks you were. You know how she gets. Just reassure her." The word struck her with a quiet force. Just reassure her. As though her own feelings were irrelevant. As though her role existed solely to soothe others. She nodded, though something inside her shifted. She found her mother in the sitting room, wringing her hands. "I didn't mean to burden you," her mother said immediately. "I know I talk too much. I know I worry too much. But you're the only one who listens." Elara sat beside her, feeling the familiar pull of obligation. "You're not a burden," she said softly, though the words felt heavy. "I'm here." Her mother leaned against her, and Elara wrapped an arm around her shoulders. She felt the older woman's trembling ease, but her own remained. That night, Elara lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet, but her thoughts were loud. She felt stretched thin, as though her kindness had been pulled taut to the point of tearing. She wondered how much longer she could keep absorbing everyone's fears without drowning in them. She closed her eyes and tried to breathe, but the air felt heavy. She had always believed that kindness was a choice, a quiet strength she could offer freely. But now she wondered if it had become something else, an expectation, a duty, a cage, and somewhere deep inside her, a small voice whispered again, "When will someone carry you?" This time, the question did not fade. It lingered, sharp and insistent, like a truth she had avoided for too long. Elara woke with the sense that something inside her had shifted in the night, though she could not name what. It was not a dramatic feeling, no sudden clarity, no fierce resolve. It was quieter than that, like the faintest crack in a long-sealed door. A small space where air could finally slip through. She moved through the morning as she always did, preparing tea, tidying the table, listening to the familiar sounds of the house. But beneath her movements, a subtle tension hummed. She felt as though she were walking with a cup filled to the brim, every step threatening to spill what she had held for years. Her mother entered the kitchen with a troubled expression. "I didn't sleep well," she said. "I kept thinking about what your brother said yesterday. Do you think he's angry with me? Or with you? I can't tell anymore." Elara set the teapot down gently. "He's not angry," she said, her voice steady. "He's overwhelmed." Her mother wrung her hands. "You always say that. You always make things sound manageable." Elara paused. There was no accusation in her mother's tone, only fear. But something inside Elara tightened anyway. "I say it because it's true," she replied. Her mother nodded, though her eyes remained clouded. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Elara felt the familiar ache. She wanted to say, "You would manage. You would learn. You would stand on your own feet." But she didn't, not yet. Later that day, her sister arrived again, her voice trembling with fresh worries. She spoke for nearly an hour, pacing the room, her words tumbling out in frantic waves. Elara listened, offering the same steady presence she always had. "You're the only one who understands," her sister said when she finally paused. Elara nodded, though her chest felt tight. "I hear you," she said softly. Her sister left soon after, lighter for having unloaded her fears. Elara remained seated, her hands resting in her lap. She felt hollow, as though something essential had been drained from her. She wondered how many times she had sat in that same chair, listening to someone else's fears while her own remained unspoken. That evening, her father approached her with a familiar expression. "Your mother is worried again," he said. "She thinks she upset you this morning. You should talk to her." Elara blinked. "I wasn't upset." "Well, she thinks you were. You know how she gets. Just reassure her." The word struck her with a quiet force. Just reassure her. As though her own feelings were irrelevant. As though her role existed solely to soothe others. She nodded, though something inside her shifted. She found her mother in the sitting room, wringing her hands. "I didn't mean to burden you," her mother said immediately. "I know I talk too much. I know I worry too much. But you're the only one who listens." Elara sat beside her, feeling the familiar pull of obligation. "You're not a burden," she said softly, though the words felt heavy. "I'm here." Her mother leaned against her, and Elara wrapped an arm around her shoulders. She felt the older woman's trembling ease, but her own remained. That night, Elara lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet, but her thoughts were loud. She felt stretched thin, as though her kindness had been pulled taut to the point of tearing. She wondered how much longer she could keep absorbing everyone's fears without drowning in them. She closed her eyes and tried to breathe, but the air felt heavy. She had always believed that kindness was a choice, a quiet strength she could offer freely. But now she wondered if it had become something else, an expectation, a duty, a cage, and somewhere deep inside her, a small voice whispered again, "When will someone carry you?" This time, the question did not fade. It lingered, sharp and insistent, like a truth she had avoided for too long. The next morning, the turning point arrived, not with a dramatic event, but with something small, almost trivial. Her brother arrived unexpectedly, his expression stormy. He dropped into a chair with a sigh that seemed designed to summon her attention. "I need to talk," he said. "Everything is falling apart." Elara sat across from him, hands folded. "Tell me," she said, because that was what he needed. He spoke for nearly an hour, frustrations, disappointments, fears he had never named aloud. Elara listened, absorbing each word like a sponge. When he finally paused, he looked at her with a mixture of relief and expectation. "You always know what to say," he said. "You're the only one who doesn't make me feel foolish." Elara opened her mouth to respond, but before she could speak, her mother entered the room, her voice trembling. "Elara, I need you," she said. "I've been thinking about what your sister said yesterday, and I can't shake the feeling that." Her father appeared behind her. "Elara, your mother is upset again." "You should." Something inside Elara snapped, not loudly. Not violently. It was a quiet breaking, like the soft crack of ice underfoot. She stood slowly, her hands trembling. "I can't," she said. Her family fell silent, her mother blinked. "What do you mean, you can't?" Elara swallowed. Her voice felt fragile, but it held. "I can't be everything for everyone. Not right now." Her brother frowned. "We're just talking." "I know," Elara said. "But I'm tired." Her mother's eyes filled with confusion. "Tired of us?" "Tired of carrying everything," Elara whispered. The room felt still, as though the air itself had paused. Her father stepped forward. "Elara, we didn't mean," "I know," she said. "But I need space. I need time. I need someone to ask how I'm doing." Her family stared at her, stunned. They had never heard her speak this way. They had never imagined she could. Her mother's voice trembled. "We didn't know." Elara nodded. "I know you didn't." Her brother looked down, shame flickering across his face. We should have asked. Elara exhaled. A long, trembling breath. I need to rest, she said. Just for a while. Her family nodded slowly, uncertain but listening in a way they never had before. Elara stepped out of the room, her legs unsteady. She walked to her own space, closed the door gently, and leaned against it. For the first time in years, she felt the weight begin to lift, not because someone else had taken it, but because she had finally set it down. It was not triumph. Not yet, but it was the beginning of something she had never allowed herself before, a life where her voice mattered too. Elara did not leave her room for a long while. She sat on the edge of her bed, hands resting loosely in her lap, feeling the unfamiliar stillness settle around her. It was not peace, not yet, but it was the first moment in years that belonged entirely to her. No one's voice pressed against her thoughts. No one's fears seeped into her chest. The silence felt strange, almost fragile, as though it might shatter if she breathed too deeply. She closed her eyes and let the quiet expand. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the weight she had been carrying. Not the stories themselves, but the effort of holding them. The constant vigilance. The softening of her own voice so others could speak more easily. The way she had learned to fold her needs into smaller and smaller corners until they were nearly invisible. She had not realized how heavy invisibility could be. A soft knock sounded at her door. She opened her eyes but did not move. Another knock followed, hesitant. Elara. Her father's voice came, quieter than she had ever heard it. May I come in? She hesitated, then rose and opened the door. Her father stood there, hands clasped, his expression uncertain. He looked older than she remembered, perhaps because she had never allowed herself to look closely. I wanted to speak with you, he said. She stepped aside, and he entered slowly, as though afraid to disturb the air. He sat in the chair near her window, and she remained standing for a moment before taking her place on the bed. Her father cleared his throat. We didn't understand, he said. Not truly. We thought you were steady, strong, that you didn't mind listening. I didn't mind, Elara said softly. Not at first. He nodded, his gaze lowered. Your mother depends on you. Your siblings too. I suppose we all do. It never occurred to us that you might need someone as well. Elara looked at him, surprised by the tremor in his voice. He had always been the quiet one, the one who spoke in statements rather than confessions. I should have asked, he continued. I should have noticed. Elara felt something shift inside her, not forgiveness, not yet, but a loosening of the tightness she had carried. I didn't say anything, she murmured. I didn't know how. Her father looked up, meeting her eyes. You don't have to know how. You only have to speak. We will listen. The words were simple, but they landed with unexpected force. She felt them settle into the cracks inside her, not as a cure but as a beginning. Her father stood slowly. Take the time you need, he said. We will manage. When he left, Elara remained seated, her hands trembling slightly. She had not expected understanding, not so soon, not so gently. She had braced herself for defensiveness, for guilt, for the familiar insistence that she was overreacting. Instead, she had been met with something she had not felt in years, consideration. Later that afternoon, her sister knocked. She entered with cautious steps, her usual urgency replaced by something quieter. I didn't realize, her sister said, sitting beside her. I've been so wrapped in my own troubles that I never stopped to think about yours. Elara looked at her, Unsure how to respond, her sister reached for her hand. "You don't have to carry me," she said. "Not like that. Not anymore." Elara felt her throat tighten. She nodded, unable to speak. Her sister squeezed her hand gently. "We'll learn," she said. "All of us." When her sister left, her brother appeared in the doorway. He did not enter at first, as though waiting for permission. When she nodded, he stepped inside. "I've been unfair," he said simply. "I talk and talk, and I never ask about you." Elara shook her head. "You didn't know." "I should have," he said. "You always listen." "I should have wondered who listens to you." She looked at him, and for the first time, she saw the uncertainty beneath his usual confidence. He sat beside her, elbows on his knees. "I don't know how to fix it," he admitted. "But I want to try." Elara felt a warmth rise in her chest, not joy, not relief, but something gentler. Something like recognition. "You can start," she said softly. "By asking how I am." He looked at her, startled, then nodded. "How are you?" The question was simple, but it felt like a door opening. Elara inhaled slowly. "Tired," she said. "But lighter." Her brother nodded, accepting the answer without trying to solve it. It was the first time anyone had done that. When he left, Elara remained seated, her thoughts quiet. She felt the house differently now, not as a place that demanded her constant vigilance, but as a space where she might eventually breathe freely. That evening, her mother knocked. Elara opened the door to find her standing there, hands clasped tightly. "I didn't know," her mother whispered. "I didn't see how much I leaned on you." Elara felt her chest tighten. "I didn't say anything." Her mother shook her head. "You shouldn't have had to." She stepped forward, hesitating before placing a hand on Elara's arm. "I will try," she said. "I will try to carry myself. And I will try to carry you, too, when you need it." Elara felt tears rise, unexpected and quiet. She nodded, unable to speak. Her mother pulled her into a gentle embrace, one that did not ask for anything, did not tremble with fear, did not lean too heavily. It was simply an embrace. When her mother left, Elara closed the door softly and leaned against it. The house felt different now, not lighter, not yet, but shifting. As though the weight she had carried alone was beginning to redistribute. She walked to the window and sat in the chair her father had used earlier. The sky outside was dimming, the last traces of light softening the edges of the world. She watched the quiet fade and felt something inside her settle. She had not transformed in a single moment. She had not become someone new. But she had spoken. She had been heard. And that was its own kind of triumph, a quiet one. A steady one, the kind that did not announce itself, but lingered. She closed her eyes and let the stillness fill her, not the silence of suppression, but the silence of space finally made, a space where she could breathe, a space where she could exist, a space that belonged to her. Stories like Elara's remind us that even the gentlest people have limits. Kindness is a quiet strength, but it is not an endless well. When someone spends their life carrying the weight of others, it is easy for the world to forget they have a weight of their own. And sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is simply say, "I can't." Elara's turning point wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a single moment of honesty, a moment where she allowed herself to exist not as a refuge, but as a human being with needs, exhaustion, and a voice that deserved to be heard. And that small act of truth changed everything around her. The lesson is simple, but not easy. Kindness should never require the disappearance of the one who gives it. There is strength in compassion, but there is also strength in boundaries. In stepping back. In asking for space. In letting others learn to stand on their own. And now, I want to turn the question toward you, gently, without pressure, the way Elara needed someone to ask her, have you ever reached a breaking point because you were carrying too much for too long? If you feel comfortable, share your story in the comments. Your voice might be the reminder someone else needs, the reminder that they are not alone, and that their feelings matter too. Thank you for listening. Take care of your kindness, and take care of yourself just as fiercely.